Welcome to episode 4 of Ask Trent, where I answer your questions so that you know that you're not alone in your journey. The question that came in was from a professional working with a client, and they want to know if using the brain speed ball would be helpful or too much for someone with vestibular neuritis and labyrinthitis. And it's a really great question because whenever there's a condition of the inner ear that creates imbalance and vertigo and a lot of complications with function, you want to make sure that you have a smart approach. And so there's a couple considerations around this topic. So with this condition, I don't know what phase this particular client is in, and that's an important thing to know, because if they're early on, it's just started to happen, then there's a good chance that they're not quite ready for vestibular rehab. Now, if that's the case, then I would wait to engage the client until they're approved and ready for vestibular rehabilitation. So I'll approach this question more from a later phase, as if this person is in vestibular rehab and doing exercises and really supported by their medical team, and it being a really good strategy for what's next in their care. So with that in mind, the brain speed ball is a really fantastic tool, and it's all about how you approach your client and how you approach the condition. So you're going to want to start slow and treat this as a discovery process at first, to see what movements are possible without creating any triggers, any dizziness, any vertigo sensation. And first reinforce what the capabilities are before challenging and trying to expand that map, because we don't want to trigger and create more problems. We're trying to help improve and find where that edge of ability is, so that when we increase challenge, we're not going so hard that we trigger an episode and create more dizziness and vertigo sensation. So now we know when you're looking at vestibular rehab that visual tracking is essential. Strengthening and improving the ability to track the eyes is one component. Improving the ability to hold your eyes in a fixed point while moving your head, that vestibulo-ocular reflex, is also very important. And then your proprioception, your joint movements in your body, play a role as well. And so if you're working with somebody, you want to be considering those 3 categories as a part of that rehab. It's just a really smart strategy. So, you may start with a very slow, basic game to make sure that even tracking the ball in that game is possible. If playing a game of catch is too overwhelming for someone with this condition, then you could even just pass the ball back and forth. You could roll the ball on the floor back and forth. You could hold the ball still at first and just work on that vestibulo-ocular reflex where you're holding the eyes still while moving the head in different directions. And again, you're going to start slow. So my demonstration just now is actually much faster than how I would start. And you might even, to give you a more accurate demonstration of that, you might start with just holding the eyes in a fixed point and practicing going to one direction and back to center, just in a slow, easy motion, kind of noting what that range of motion is, what the speed is, and asking your client to tune into the sensations they're having, so you're getting feedback along the way. Never assume to know that, yeah, we should do 5 of those. I would continue to get feedback from them so that you can both build trust in how you develop the exercises and how hard you make it. Now, to take you back to the game rules that absolutely apply when you're doing vestibular rehab, is fun is required, because if you keep this game fun, even for someone with a severe condition that is really life-altering and affects quality of life, keeping it fun keeps the brain engaged, and it keeps the brain curious about what's next and paying attention to the whole process. And challenge is essential. So, for someone that has a condition that gets triggered and creates vertigo, that challenge doesn't mean make it as hard as you would for someone who doesn't have vertigo. It means for that person what's challenging. So take into consideration when we look at their current abilities and slowly expanding those abilities, that's going to be challenging. You're going to check that box of challenge really easily. So I would start very slow and discover where that challenge point is, like I said. And then the other component is creativity, so that every time you're playing the game, it's not the same game every time, because that's going to dissolve the fun, which is required. We need to keep the fun there. So keeping it creative is going to help them feel like it's fresh, want to stay engaged with it. They might even come up with their own movements and own exercises, and hopefully they have a ball at home and they can do homework, so it's not just when they're with you. Because reinforcing this with repetition is also a really important of their rehab. It's an important aspect of their rehab. So it's not just that 1 hour or 2 hours a week that they might be seeing a professional, but it's in the morning, it's in the midday, it's in the evening, and it's every day, so that they can really improve the strength of their senses. And what's common when you're restoring a weakness in the inner ear is it might create some dizziness, because your brain is adjusted to the imbalance, and now you're restoring it, and you're getting better signal, and you're strengthening that sense, and it might trigger a little bit of dizziness. That can be normal, but make sure you're having really good conversations with your client about what's acceptable for them and challenge, what they feel safe doing. And if you're able to talk to any of their medical team, any of the professionals that are also helping them, it can give you a lot of great information, and you can learn a lot from what they're doing as well, so that you're a member of the team that's supporting your client, and you're not alone in trying to quote fix this. Because the brain speed ball isn't going to fix the condition, but it is an absolute essential component to strengthening the senses, which is the foundation to how you recover from the condition in the first place. So if you have this condition, or you have a client that deals with vestibular neuritis or labyrinthitis, if you have questions on it, put them in the comments, and there might be somebody else in the community that wants to chime in and provide some support, or maybe a story of what they've experienced. And I'd love to find out if I can expand in any direction on this topic for you. Let me know in the comments as well. So thank you for tuning in to this episode of Ask Trent, and I'll see you next time.